Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. However, if you've been looking at my website, which is now up and running again, and it's starborninstitute.org, you'd already know that the title of tonight's show is A Confusing Mirage. And that is because there are some tricky aspects going on this week, but what they really boil down to is that you can be confused right now by what you're seeing. It could be something that's just too good to be true and you can't believe that for one reason or another. Or it could be something that is a phony or a fake or represents somebody's house of cards that's falling apart because they're looking as if they're involved with one certain lifestyle and they're not. So they could be a fake. But is that in your mind or is that in reality? A mirage is something that we are wishing for or thinking about, or that it's a little further out of our reach, and yet we're pursuing it. And so this is a time when we are going to have to figure out why there is a confusing mirage. And the first thing that we have to look at is what is not there. And that is because there are some things that are not going on right now, and that can help lead us to confusion as well. The first thing is that there are character traits among all 12 sun signs. And so the 3 character traits, each of which depict 4 of the sun signs. So one of them is the mutable character traits. So mutable signs are very flexible and adaptable and pretty easy to get along with. And then there's 4 other signs that are fixed signs, and they're sort of the opposite. It's not that they can't be easy to get along with, but they really do stick to their own point of view, and they're not willing to change their minds at all. And then there's another 4 signs called the cardinal signs, and that's what's missing this week, because the cardinal signs represent views that are so staunch that they're not fixed, but they're clear. And they represent right and wrong. And you see, if you're looking at a confusing mirage, one of the questions that you might want to be asking yourselves is, what is right and what is wrong here? And the 4 cardinal signs, which have no planets in any of them, are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. So we're not getting any help from the cardinal signs at all. If you're looking around for somebody to tell you what's right or wrong right now, where are they? There's no planets in those signs. So that means that you can't feel as if you can go to somebody and say, hey, figure this out for me. What's right and what's wrong? Because there are just no planets in those signs. Another area where there's nothing going on is the fire signs. Because the 3 fire signs, which are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, have no planets in them. And so what do fire signs like to do? Oh, they like to get up and go. They're impulsive, they're energetic, they're enthusiastic. They like to go long distances, they like to learn things. But there are no planets in the fire signs either. And so there are some areas where even if you wanted to do something about a confusing mirage, it's going to be slow going, I think, since there's no planets in the fire signs, and those are the speedy signs. There's nothing there. So that is one reason why there can be confusion right now. Another reason is the way the planets are set up. There are 10 planets up there, and there are no planets in the fire signs, and there's no planets in the cardinal signs. So all 10 planets are only in the mutable signs. There's 7 of those. They're in a harsh T-cross in the mutable signs, 7 of them. Another 3 planets, the 3 remaining planets, are all in the fixed signs, and they are squaring each other. And so that's what we have to work with this week. Not only what's not around, but we are looking at a real emphasis in certain signs or certain character traits that we'll have to work with, and that's why there can be a confusing mirage of something either that you wish was true Or if it's coming true, you can hardly believe it, because which one is the real one and which one is the fake? And one thing that we can see right off is that with these 7 planets in a harsh T-cross among the mutable signs, it means that people who are normally very easy to get along with are having a hard time agreeing on anything. Or they are not certain about what to do next. Or they are not certain that they can believe what they see. And so that starts with the moon today, which is in Virgo, and that is a mutable earth sign. It's the only mutable sign that's not a double-bodied sign. And Virgo rules facts and details and the whole healthcare field. And it rules accounting, adding things up. And it rules finishing. And that moon in Virgo is being opposed by Saturn, the planet of time and of obstruction and delay, in Pisces, and also Neptune, which is in Pisces. Neptune has actually moved even closer to the end of the sign. It's at 29 degrees, 49 minutes. It's only 11 minutes of 1 degree away from being in Aries, but it is still in Pisces. So and Neptune is home in the sign it rules. It's very strong. And so these 2 planets are opposing the moon in Virgo. Well, when Saturn, which represents father figures or authority figures, is opposing the moon, which generally represents women and mothers, when they are opposing or squaring each other, it is an indication that parents aren't getting along. So that can lead to confusion as well, particularly to younger people who are sort of wanting to know what their parents are doing or how they're acting or thinking. And then these 3 planets are all being squared strongly by 4 wonderful planets. And so there's 4 planets in Gemini, and they are the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter. And they are squaring that moon in Virgo. So the Sun is squaring the moon, leading to indecision and confusion. That's why it's a confusing mirage right now. And then they are also squaring Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, which means that since Pisces rules things behind the scenes and it rules dreams, are you looking at a dream coming true now? Really? Or are you looking at what you might call something that has been a fairly successful fake and is no longer a successful fake? In fact, it can represent somebody or even an organization or even a whole country whose house of cards is falling apart now. Why could that be? Well, the real issue, when it boils down to it, is money. And unfortunately, we've seen a change in a major planet this week, and it is making it a little tough to handle financial affairs. So that's going to be on all of our agendas this week. We've got to sort of straighten out financial matters. And that can lead to someone's house of cards falling apart right now. And that is because Mars has moved into Taurus. It's left Aries, and it is in Taurus now, a fixed financial sign. And it is joining Uranus, another malefic planet, which is also in Taurus. And these 2 malefic planets, there's only 3 of them, Saturn is the 3rd one, but Mars and Uranus in a fixed financial sign, that's not good for investment. It's not good for anything Taurus rules. Investments, commercial real estate, high-priced things, lavish lifestyle, certainly anything that's high-priced. So, it can be that people who are trying to keep up with the Joneses or trying to project a facade or a mirage, if you will, of wealth. And that would be in order to cover up the fact that they could be deeply in debt instead. That's the house of cards that can be falling apart right now. That the outward illusion of people who are either wealthy or successful or ambitious is not all it seems to be. And that's because Mars and Uranus are not only in Taurus, but they are both being squared by Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, well, Mars is at 2 degrees of Taurus, and Pluto is at 1 degree of Aquarius. These 2 planets, which are the rulers of Scorpio, the other fixed financial sign, are in very harsh aspect to each other. And that's why you can be confused, either about what you want or what you've been dreaming about, or you can be confused about what you see or what you always thought someone represented. It could be a corporation. It could be a government agency. It could be the head of an institution. But you could be looking at these things, and are they real or are they fake? Well, I can tell you for one thing, they have money problems, because a lot of people have money problems. So people who are trying to keep up with the Joneses, or who are overextended, deeply in debt, have credit problems, owe more than they're worth, that can be occurring right now. And so it can be a confusing mirage, because you don't know who to believe. And yet, maybe there is something you can believe in. Because there are 5 planets, beautiful planets, that are trining each other among the air signs. And so that Sun, Venus, Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, and Jupiter there, wonderful planets and very strong planets, are all being trined beautifully by that Pluto in Aquarius. And Aquarius rules the future. Pluto rules people in upper management that are in positions that can make decisions about future projects and also future management in those, dealing with those projects, or in a large corporation, government agency, or institution. And they are looking for people they can get along with well. They may be looking to award new contracts eventually to people who they can form new partnerships with. So if that's something you've been wishing for, that's for real. And the reason why is that all 5 of these planets are trining the sign of Libra. Okay, now remember I said of the 4 cardinal signs, Libra is one of them, and there are no planets there. But it's Libra's ruler, Venus, that's trining it. That's pretty good. And so that means that if you have had a very fond wish that seems like a mirage because it hasn't happened yet, or a dream that you've had in your heart, maybe of what you wish you were doing or who you wish you were with, there is the possibility of a very harmonious partnership or even a legal contract coming your way now. And that's because it's not phony. Or that's because there are people that are sincerely fond of each other and who can work well together. And so that could lead to a great partnership, or it could lead to a serious contract, a good legal one, by the time of the Libra solar eclipse in October. So, in one way, you could be confused because you're looking at some phonies now that they might be wealthy and ambitious and, famous in one way or another. But are they for real, or are they just a mirage? Well, maybe their lifestyle is certainly a mirage, because they can be having serious money problems right now. But on the other hand, if you're looking for people who are compatible and pretty easy to get along with and have new ideas about the future that can be attractive to people in upper management, this would be a good time for you to realize that, well, even if something is too good to be true, it could be true. So you have that to look forward to now. So do you see why there's a sort of a confusion mirage going on somewhere in all of our lives? Either because there's something real fake going on, or phony, or because something is very real. And maybe you can hardly believe it's there. But it could be. So I hope you sort of keep your hopes up right now. But also take a little time to do some serious thinking, because there's no planets and fire signs. You can't make a quick jump anywhere right now. I don't think anybody can. And a lot of people have money problems. Even whole countries. Even a country that had been very commercially successful before, their house of cards can be falling apart for one reason or another. One of the reasons is that Pluto is no longer in Capricorn, which was the sign of big business, big government, and big institutions, and it's not there. And in fact, Pluto is in trouble. And in one way, it's trining all the planets in Gemini, which is very good, is they're backing each other up. And that's half of all the planets in the universe. So that's pretty good. But Pluto is being exactly squared by Mars, and Mars and Pluto are the two rulers of Scorpio, a financial sign ruling credit, debt, taxes, loans, insurance, inheritance, and grants. So there's trouble there. And then Pluto is also being squared by Uranus. So these two malefic planets in Taurus are really stirring things up right now and causing problems, but particularly for people who had been living beyond their means or had been projecting a wealthy image when they aren't. Or maybe they used to be, but they're not anymore. So, you know, try not to believe everything you see right now, but if something involves a fond dream of yours, and it involves somebody who you think is going to be pretty easy to get along with, maybe you should believe that. I think the stars are with you on that one. Okay, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Well, Aries. Aries, in one way you can be relieved right now because, you know, you can sort of go back to leading a quieter life because Mars is no longer in your sign. But there aren't any planets in fire signs right now, so I do not think that you're feeling like a ball of fire, Aries. You're probably thinking, oh, you can rest a little bit after a quite active time when you may have been very involved in making a new beginning while your ruler was in your sign. I hope you did that, Aries, because there was also a solar eclipse in your sign, which was the only eclipse in a fire sign this year. And so, you know, if you haven't already made a new beginning, you're a little late to the ball game, Aries. Should have done it a month or two ago. But still, maybe you needed to plan things more carefully. Or maybe you were caught up in what other people had been doing, and maybe you were the victim of a confusing mirage where you didn't really understand whether somebody had money or not, and maybe you were approaching them in order to make a new beginning, and those financial conditions or situations were a little bit confusing or unsure. Well, they could really be unsure now, Aries, and the reason why is that your ruler Mars has moved into Taurus right ahead of your sun sign, but that Mars is at 2 degrees and Pluto is at 1 degree of Aquarius, which does rule the future, and Uranus is also in Taurus. We have two serious malefic planets in the fixed financial sign of Taurus, and they are squaring the co-ruler of the other fixed financial sign, Scorpio, because Pluto is in Aquarius. And so, you know, Aries, I would not overextend myself right now. In fact, if you have committed certain money to certain projects or plans or obligations of yours, I would try to look your budget over a little bit more carefully and ask yourself, could you delay something right now? And the reason why is that Mars and Uranus are in Taurus, a sign ruling investments. All kinds of investments, including expensive real estate. If you were trying to sell something expensive or high price that you owned, you actually may not get your price. And it wouldn't be because something you own wasn't worth it. It would be perhaps because the financial terms would not be too agreeable at the moment. And so you're sort of up against bigger things if you're working with financial matters right now. And that's why I would sort of cool it a little bit right now, Aries, because you have no backup at all. There's just no planets in fire signs anywhere. And on top of that, yours is a cardinal sign. There isn't even any support in any of the cardinal signs. There are no planets in them. That means there's nothing squaring your sun sign, but because there's no planets in fire signs, there's nothing supporting it either. Do you see what I mean? Whatever position of strength you used to be in, I don't think you're in that right now, Aries. And it may not be due to anything you've done, but you could be in a somewhat reduced position, and that's why whatever your ambitious plans are, maybe you could cut those down a little bit and still get through a somewhat shaky financial time. And hopefully nothing would happen to you, Aries, but something could happen to your investments. or something could happen to someone else's investments, and that could affect you adversely as well. So if I were you, I'd sort of scale back a little bit and try to live a quieter life right now, Aries. You could probably use the rest, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, you're not exactly in for a pile of trouble, but you are in for financial problems right now because your sign is being forcefully squared by the co-ruler of the other fixed financial sign, which is Pluto, and it rules Scorpio. And your sign rules high price everything. It rules high price real estate or commercial real estate. It rules all investments anywhere in the world. Taurus rules the New York Stock Exchange, and it rules the countries of Israel and of Germany. And so your work methods may not have changed, Taurus. You're still known and admired for being a good hard worker. But I would say you're running into financial problems now. Now, are they your problems or are they other people's problems? See, that's why the show is titled A Confusing Mirage. Because you may be looking or associating with people who have always looked as if they were wealthy or influential or certainly ambitious, and you could have taken it for granted that, you know, they would have money forever. But that is not the way it looks with two malefic planets, Mars and Uranus, in your sign. Now, if you don't believe me, just wait a while, Taurus. I wouldn't take any financial risks now, no matter what. But just wait till Mars, which is at 2 degrees, and Uranus is at 25 degrees. Just wait till Mars moves up to conjunct Uranus and is still getting squared by Pluto. That's going to hurt. That's going to hurt a lot of people. And so this is a time that you too should not take it for granted that everything that you're looking at is real, particularly if it involves people who have always worn the mantle of wealth, but may not have it, or else may not have as much of it as they used to. And also, you don't know how many debts people have, or how many loans they have that are outstanding, or how many financial commitments they've made. And there's plenty of people that have taken gambles that are going to be losing real big now. And it could be gambles on anything. And so you don't know if somebody's for real because they could be faking it. Their house of cards could be falling right now. And if you're putting your trust in people like that, you're going to get hurt too, Taurus. So you gotta take a real close look. There is a confusing mirage in your life somewhere, and it is associated with money or people who have money or who seem to have money, but you do not know what their real financial position is. And it's their house of cards that's falling. I sure hope it's not your house of cards. You're not associated with anybody that's always been sort of trying to keep up to the Joneses, or always leading a lavish lifestyle, or always very ambitious to rub shoulders with important, influential people. Because, I mean, there would be nothing wrong with that if they had a real role, if they had a leadership role. But if they're just there to spend their money and, you know, rub shoulders, where's that going to get anybody now? There are no planets in Earth signs at all, except the two in your sign, Taurus. And they're not good ones. They're both malefic planets. And they're being squared by a ruler of another financial sign. So you too, Taurus, may have some financial problems right now. It may be that you're a little overcommitted on something. Well, is there a possibility you can pull back on that? Or maybe you've promised so much money to somebody. Is there a way you could delay that or cut that down somehow? Or just extend the deadline for when you were promising to do that? Because I think you're looking at financial problems somewhere now, Taurus. I'm not sure you caused them, but you could sure be affected by them now. And also, you could be involved in a confusing mirage, either because what you're seeing is somebody's house of cards falling apart, or you may have started to do business or have some sort of a business or social relationship with somebody whose house of cards is falling apart. And if you were involved with them closely in any way, your house of cards might be falling apart. I hope not. But you really need to hang on to what you have. And if you have any debt, Taurus, you really need to get out of it right now. That ought to be #1 on your list. Pay off the debts. Anything. Because it's debt that's, the world is swimming in debt. And so if a person has debt, they're definitely in trouble now, because Scorpio rules debt, and it's Scorpio's rulers that are involved with these malefic planets, 2 of which are in your sign. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, I think you're walking around feeling like, the world's a pretty good place and you can't be hurt no matter what. And that's almost completely true, Gemini. And the reason why is that you have 4 wonderful planets in your sign. The Sun, Venus, Mercury, your own ruler, and Jupiter are all there, and they're all being trined by Pluto in Aquarius, and together all 5 planets are trining the sign of Libra. Now, that's just about the same as it was last week under the new moon in Gemini, but there were actually 6 planets trining the sign of Libra, because there were 5 in your sign. The moon has moved on. Actually, the moon is now squaring your sun, Gemini, and so the moon in Virgo is squaring your sun sign and all 4 planets in it, and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces are also squaring all 4 planets in your sign. So there really are 7 planets that are harshly squaring and opposing each other among the mutable signs, which is what your sign is. And it's a double-bodied sign, and it has its own ruler there, and you also have almost every good planet in the universe in your sign. So yes, you could see someone whose house of cards is falling apart. Remember, it could be a whole country, or it can be people who have looked wealthy but aren't, or at least they aren't anymore, and or have high debts, or have loans outstanding, or have just made too many lavish promises and they can't keep them all right now. And so you could certainly know people like that. You can also be in a situation somewhere around you. I don't know that it's really happening to you, Gemini, but it's around you where parents are not getting along, because the moon in Virgo is being opposed by Saturn in Pisces. So it might be better for you, Gemini, to sort of mind your own business this week. Your sign rules news. And Geminis do have a little nose for news. They can sort of, they can sort of sniff when things are going on, even before they've happened. They have a sort of a feeling about where the real news is. So you'd also be very good at spotting fake news. And there can be some fakery going on, which is why the show is titled A Confusing Mirage. Because somewhere in all of our lives, and perhaps these people are in the news, there are people who are wanting to live a lavish lifestyle that they really can't afford anymore. It doesn't mean they're broke. It just means they're overextended. Or maybe the tax man's coming after them. Or just maybe they have too many loans outstanding or promises they've made that they can't deliver on anymore. Or it can just be that there are people around who were able to live a lavish lifestyle during one phase of the economy, and that phase, economic phase, is over, and they are deeply affected by that. So their house of cards is falling apart. You could sort of have a sixth sense about who those people are right now, Gemini. You would be able to look around and say, somebody's not the way they seem to be. And I'd stay away from those people, Gemini. They're not going to do you any good. But on the other hand, yours is a sign, since it is backed up by that Pluto in Aquarius, which isn't hurting your sign at all. It's giving you additional strength from people who are pretty high up behind the scenes that like what they see in you. And so I would say that there is the possibility of a much more harmonious partnership coming your way and a good legal contract. And if it isn't headed your way right now, it should be there by October, when there is a solar eclipse in Libra. You see, these planets, including the 4 in your sign and the new moon you had last week, are all trining the sign of Libra, and that's really helping you out. There isn't anything in Libra, but just your energy can be pouring into people who would make good partners. So you need to get out among them. Gemini rules the public anyway. You should be out in the public. Geminis sort of have the gift of gab. They can talk to anybody on any level. And this is a time when mixing and mingling and your sixth sense about who's a phony and who isn't could do you a lot of good, Gemini. So if I were you, I wouldn't be afraid to go out and meet new people right now and make new friends. Some of them could turn out to be lifelong partners, and there could be a really good legal contract coming your way. But you won't meet them at home, Gemini. You gotta get out of the house. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Cancer. This is a time, Cancer. Since yours is a cardinal sign, and there are no planets in the other cardinal signs, so there's nothing in Aries, your sign, Libra, or Capricorn. And cardinal signs very much know right from wrong. They have their own opinions about what's right and what's wrong. And they don't deviate from those because they have that kind of vision that can see each quality, right and wrong. But we don't have a lot of people around that can clearly explain that in a confusing mirage situation. And a mirage is a sort of a picture of what you wish was there. And actually, if you have been hoping and wishing and working toward making a dream come true, because Neptune and Saturn in Pisces are trining your sun, Cancer, and they've been doing that for a long time. Neptune's been doing that for 12 years. And Saturn's been doing that for about 1.5 years or 2 years, something like that. And so if you were going to make a fond dream come true, which was very much behind the scenes, perhaps something that you just ardently wished for a long time, but never, the conditions weren't right, or the situation wasn't right, or the picture wasn't right. Maybe you were a victim of a confusing mirage. But actually, your basic quality is knowing right from wrong and sticking to basic values of human life. And you have 4 planets in Gemini right behind your sun. Last week you had 5 under the new moon in Gemini, but you still have those 4 wonderful planets, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter, right behind your sun sign. And when there are really good planets right behind a person's sun sign, it means it's in their background of their life. And so you would have quite a bit going on in the background of your life, Cancer, and I would say all of it's good. And you would be able to see whose house of cards has fallen apart. You would see that because it would involve people that you don't agree with anyway, or they have values that's not the way you live, and so it's okay with you. So you would be able to see that. But on the other hand, you are one of these lucky people that may be looking finally at a dream or a wish coming true. And your problem in the confusing mirage might be that you don't believe it's coming true now. But it is. So you might have been wishing on a star for a long time, Cancer. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. It could be looking right at you. It could be just something that is, or someone that's perfect for you. And it would last a lifetime, a whole lifetime. Because you would know who's right for you. And you'd have pretty good vision on who the fakes are and whose house of cards are falling apart. You'd be able to see that. You may not comment on it, but you could see it pretty clearly. And yet behind the scenes, there's There's the possibility of a very harmonious partnership and a good legal contract. And it could have been something, or involving someone that you had dreamed about as if they were a mirage. But they're not, Cancer. They're real, and so are you. So you don't need to be confused anymore. All you need to do is reach out and touch. Good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, remember I said that there are planets in the fixed signs right now that are creating financial problems. And that could affect you, Leo, a lot. Because first of all, there's no planets in the fire signs. So there's nothing in Aries, nothing in your sign, nothing in Sagittarius. There's no backup in the fire signs at all. So Leo, if you were going to make some grandstand play, or you were going to do something that, really put you on stage and let you sort of show off right now, I wonder where you're going to get the energy, Leo, because that's probably not the direction that you're going to be able to go in. And it might not be your fault. It can simply be that other people are concerned about other things. Well, you should be too, Leo. Because not only is there no support in the fire signs at all, but Mars and Uranus in Taurus are squaring your sun from Taurus. And Pluto in Aquarius is squaring them and opposing your sun. And so you have money problems somewhere, Leo. And you are a person who could be involved in some way with a confusing mirage. Is it a dream that you've always wished for and worked hard to get, but you're a little confused about it? Well, that probably so. You could be confused about that. Or have you been the person that has been out living a lavish lifestyle and not mentioning the debts or being overextended or having the value of your investments fall, but still sort of keeping up the show? Leos always think the show must go on. And it can't right now, Leo. It just can't. And that's because it's looking like you have some financial problems. Now you could say, oh no, I can handle my budget real well. Well, what about your investments? See, Taurus rules investments. Taurus rules expensive real estate. Taurus rules anything with its high priced, such as art and good cars and things like that. So two malefic planets are already squaring your sun, and they're in a fixed financial sign, Taurus, and the co-ruler of another fixed financial sign, Pluto in Scorpio, is opposing your sun sign. It's going to be doing that for years. It retrogrades briefly at the end of the summer and then comes right back into Aquarius, when it will continue to square or oppose all the fixed signs, because Aquarius is a fixed sign, where it will be for years. So you need to redo your budget, Leo. And it could be your house of cards that's falling, meaning that you could have always been used to a somewhat free and easy, lavish lifestyle, And Leos like to party and do expensive things and gamble. And a real gamble of yours is not going to pay off at all right now, Leo. There isn't any way to turn it around either. It could be that time will turn it around, but you won't. And no matter how hard you try, it's not going to work. And so I hope you have not been gambling in any way. But if you have, you'll have to make some other much more modest choice about something. And the problem is, the sign that rules modesty is Virgo. That's right ahead of your sun sign, but the moon is in Virgo today, and it is being opposed by Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and squared by all the planets in Gemini. Actually, I don't even think a modest reversal or a revision of your plans is going to work out too successfully right now, probably because there's nobody else supporting that. There's nothing in the fire signs. But on the other hand, Leo, okay, it's not all bad news. All four planets in Gemini, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter, are sextiling your sun. if you could start something that was part-time or temporary, that could ease your financial strain right now, Leo. It wouldn't have to be forever. A little part-time job somewhere, or a temporary project that you're working on that could turn out to be profitable. How about low cost? If you were doing something that was actually low cost, it wouldn't cost you too much, and it might be very appealing to other people that are looking for low cost projects. You might get new partners that way. So what you're going to have to do is sort of think on your feet and be a little bit more creative on a smaller scale right now, Leo. And I would take advantage of those 4 planets in Gemini sextiling your sun. A sextile represents opportunities. And if you were going to start up something that was low cost and temporary or part-time, it could probably be successful for you. But you'd have to do it on your own. You'd really have to depend on yourself. And so you'd have to commit to that. And not the grand gesture, something a little smaller, low cost, that will sort of get you to an easier spot right now. And certainly the money that you might get paid for that would help your financial condition too, so good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, it's sort of good news and bad news. And the bad news is that you've got the moon in your sign. Well, that can make you think of home and family, because that's what the moon rules, because it's the ruler of Cancer. But that moon in your sign is being strongly opposed by Saturn and by Neptune at the 29th degree of fate, 2949 actually, of Pisces. Both these planets are in Pisces. So there can be some sadness or some lingering problem behind the scenes that is causing not exactly friction, but a doubt or even a departure somewhere in your life, Virgo. And you could be a little bit worried about that. And my advice to you is try to let time pass. But it will only do that slowly. So instead, you've got to look at your more immediate surroundings. And unfortunately, there are 4 planets in Gemini, including your own ruler. And that is because the Sun, Venus, Mercury, because Mercury rules Gemini, but it also rules your sign, and Jupiter are all squaring your Sun. And so, Virgo, you are almost wanting to be in 2 different places at the same time. Okay, so that's not going to work. It's not physically possible. But also, you could be doubtful about some kind of a dream coming true at the moment, and that could be due to a little bit of sorrow or a departure or a lingering problem that has not worked itself out yet. And that could make you feel a little bit bad. And also, there can be a change in your neighborhood, or there can be a change among young people that you are not in complete agreement with, but there's nothing that you're going to be able to do about it either. And so what could you do something about, Virgo? Financial situation. If I were you, since your sign rules accounting, and you're really good at putting things down and adding them up and looking at the numbers and then reviewing them again and again, because Virgos like to check things, you might be able to succeed where others are failing now, and that is financially. And the reason why is that Mars and Uranus, 2 malefic planets that are up to no good in the sign of Taurus, which rules investments, are both trining your Sun. So even if your employer had to pull back a little bit, and that could cause problems for everybody, still, as far as the management of your own investments go, you may be in a position, since Virgos are very careful with their money, and they're never broke. And generally Virgos are not overextended. They may have loans outstanding or an expensive lifestyle, but you can always trim your expensive lifestyle. Okay, so you can cut down costs that way. But also, you might be able to take advantage of financial conditions which can be hurting the people who are the big spenders by lowering the value of their investments. And because those investments are probably going to go lower, you may be able to take advantage, and if you have the money, do a little buying that would do you some good. And so you could actually increase your investments by taking advantage of the prices that are falling in other sectors. One of the sectors could be the retail sector. Gemini rules retail, but those 4 planets are squaring your sun. So what I'm saying is you should look around for where there's a little trouble around and see if the prices are falling. And if they are, it may be a very good time to buy, Virgo, because you get a little more bang for your buck if the price comes down on something. And or else, if you're thinking of selling something, I'd do it pretty quick before the price goes down too much, one way or the other. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Libra. Well, Libra, whether it's right now under the influence of all 4 planets, good planets in Gemini trining your sun, and Pluto in Aquarius also trining your sun, whether a new partnership is forming right now, or a legal contract is about to be signed right now, or whether it takes a period of time over the summer, and the possibility could still arise by the Libra solar eclipse in your sign in October. I think it's going to happen, Libra. You're under very good aspects. Yours is a cardinal sign. There are no planets in any cardinal signs right now, and that means that if you're wondering what is right and wrong, those people, including yourself and your own opinions, could be a little quiet right now. And so you could see things going on around you, and you may be able to determine whose house of cards is falling apart, and they're leading a phony lifestyle that is not backed up by any. They could be leading a wealthy lifestyle, but they have too many bills, or they're overextended in different ways, and they're not pulling back. Well, that's a recipe for disaster. You may even be able to see people like that whose house of cards are falling apart. But I don't think it's you, Libra. It doesn't mean that you might not have been a little lavish in your spending, because Libra likes beautiful things. But if you actually have been more prudent and you have not committed yourself or overextended yourself financially, then you could be in a pretty good and happy frame of mind right now and willing to take on new partners that could result in a better legal contract, not just for them, but for you, by the solar eclipse that's coming up in your sign. So if I were you, I would look around for better opportunities right now. And if they involve somebody that you feel you could have a very harmonious relationship with, and this could be at work, or it could be romantically, or it could be just in your neighborhood, that would be fine. But I think that there's a possibility of something more permanent and a really outstanding, not just an everyday harmonious relationship, but an outstanding harmonious relationship coming your way. One that would make you happy for the rest of your life. It may even come real quietly. It may even come in a way that, well, people aren't noticing that too much. You may have wanted it for a long time, and there's a way to make it happen now. And so that would clear up the confusing mirage of you always hoping for someone better or something better and never seeing it in front of you. But there can be somebody coming now in one way or another. It might be work-related that is going to work out fine. They would be somebody new. Even if you had been noticing them or you knew of them for a long time, you may never have met them, but they, physically, but there is a possibility of that. Good news about a harmonious partnership and possible legal contract. It could happen anytime now, Libra, throughout the summer and no later than your birthday. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, this is a time, Scorpio, when you don't have to just walk on eggshells. I think you really need to slow down and stop. And the reason why is that there's two reasons. One is obvious, and it's financial. And that is because Mars now at 2 degrees and Uranus also at 25 degrees actually today in Taurus are both opposing your sun sign, and that is an indication of financial problems, particularly in your investments. Okay, they're not working out, or a gamble that you took isn't going to pay off, or if you are wanting, if you thought more money was coming your way in one way or another, it won't be as much as you thought. And so it doesn't mean there might not be money there, just not as much as you thought. And at the same time, your ruler, Pluto, is in Aquarius, squaring your sun. It's going to be doing that for 17 to 20 years. Scorpio, try to get used to it, because the world is going to change. And the earth signs, yours is not an earth sign, it's a water sign, but the earth signs are having a terrible problem realizing that life is not going to go on the way it's always gone on before, because Pluto was in Capricorn backing up all the earth signs for most of this century, and it's not doing that anymore. In fact, now it has moved into a fixed sign, and it's squaring or opposing all the fixed signs, including the 2 malefic planets in Taurus, which are opposing your sun sign. So it doesn't mean that you're not a good money manager, Scorpio, but it does mean that high-priced investments are not worth as much as they used to be. And there are also people or a situation or even a lifestyle choice that involves others whose house of cards are falling in. Okay? They could be wealthy, they could have been well-known, they could have been very ambitious, but you don't know how much debt they have. You don't know how many loans they have outstanding. You don't know how many promises they've made to other people that they have to follow through on. And if you're in the same boat, then you know that there's going to be trouble with that, because things are not going to be worth what they were before. And therefore the value of investments will fall. But will the taxes on them change? Not at all. In fact, when values fall, particularly among governments, what do? They just raise the taxes because they want more money to spend. Well, they're going to get it from people like you and me. There's nothing you can do about that, I guess. And so you really need to pull in, Scorpio. And if you've made some commitments that are sort of high-priced, you say goodbye to those. You really need to not commit your money to a lavish lifestyle or to any illusion of living in a house of cards. You need to, if you were ever raised in a simpler lifestyle, you should go back to it. Or even back to somewhere near where you grew up. Because that would re-establish your values that you were taught, perhaps by your parents. And that may make you realize that going on a track that you were raised in, with values that you were raised in, is a whole lot better than running around with other people that are just out sort of advertising their lifestyle as if that was their claim to fame. And all the money that they are advertising may not be real, and it may not be there anymore. And so you need to really ask yourself, how do you want to live the rest of your life, Scorpio? This would be a very good time to think about that. Because with 2 malefic planets, Mars and Uranus, opposing your sun sign, there are some financial problems that you need to handle. And all I can assure you is that something is sure not worth what you paid for it. Or there could even be a lifestyle choice that isn't worth what you paid for it. And you should, if you can't dump it right now, at least try to cut your costs as much as possible, if you can. And when Mars moves, it's at 2 degrees of Taurus, And when it moves up to conjuncting Uranus in Taurus, you do not want to be financially vulnerable when that happens, because that'll really hit you, Scorpio and Leo, even Aquarius, and it'll sure hit Taurus. So if the House of Cards represents people around you who are sort of flashy and really overextending themselves, I'd stay away from those people. You may have to make a lifestyle choice for a simpler life, one that isn't like that. One that is more sincere and less showy, but possibly will bring you greater happiness. Because at the 11th hour, at the very last minute, which is right now, Scorpio, you could still make a dream come true, because Neptune and Saturn are still trining your sun. I would really concentrate on that, because you're not going to be able to do much about falling values in investments or other people's house of cards that's falling apart. It was their own doing. You can't do anything about that, Scorpio. So you better pay attention to something that's working for you, not against you. And that something is a fond dream that you've had for at least 12 years or longer. And it looks like at, as I said, the 11th hour, last minute of the hour, you could still make it come true, but you'd have to put a lot of effort into that, and the stars are with you on that, but not on anything else. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius. This is a time, Sagittarius, when remember there's no planets in the fire signs. Okay, so you can't fix anything by just turning around on a dime and heading in a new direction, Sagittarius, but yours is an intellectual sign anyway. You could do a lot of good thinking right now, as long as you're doing your own thinking and not letting other people influence you. But you could be easily distracted right now, Sagittarius, because there are 4 planets in Gemini, and they're all opposing your sun sign, and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces are squaring your sun sign, and so is the moon in Virgo today. There are 7 planets in the other 3 mutable signs that are all squaring and opposing your sign. Okay, so you're sort of up against it right now, Sagittarius, because there's no backup. There's no planets in fire signs at all. And so you're going to have to look at changes that other people are making. And you may not always be happy with the way they're doing it. And you're not going to be able to change it. So my advice to you, Sagittarius, is try to be philosophical. Your sign rules philosophy and religion. And try to realize that other people make their own mistakes. It may not be any fault of yours at all, Sagittarius. It just simply is that at times you have to realize other people make their own mistakes. There's nothing you can do about that. And so don't let yourself get too upset about the changes or what you think are the mistakes that other people are making right now. Because they're doing it on their own. And it's hard for a high-minded, intellectual person to accept that simple truth. And the reason why is because you can think of a million ways when people could make better decisions right now. But there are no planets of cardinal signs. There's nobody around saying this is right and this is wrong. There's no guidance like that right now because there's no planets in Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn. And there's plenty of problems around. And there are people whose house of cards are going to fall apart. But even if you are disappointed in the way a dream comes out, just try to philosophically realize other people make their own mistakes. And there isn't much you can do about it. Because we all have to respect the fact that we have free will. You have it, Sagittarius. You could move in a new direction when you get ready to. There's no planets in fire signs right now. I don't think you're going to jump into something real new at the moment, but you could do it. You could do it. I think you should think about it a little bit more, plan it pretty carefully, and go out and talk to a variety of people that will help shape your thinking and solidify it even more. That would make you more successful. And so maybe that's what you need to do, Sagittarius. Is concentrate a little bit more and try to raise your sights or follow your own philosophy. Okay? And if other people don't measure up, you have to understand they're responsible for making their own mistakes. It's not your fault, and so you can't change them either. And then just accept what you can do is go forward on a new path of your own. Eventually, simply by mapping it out first, getting ready. And that's what you can do now. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, the moon in Virgo is trining your sun. There can be some nice thing going on that's sort of small or economical, but very pleasant. It could be at home. It could be with a woman friend. It could be something where it's sort of easy to do and very economical. And you could do it. Or you could be involved in that, Capricorn. That would be nice. And then Mars and, so that's the trine from the moon in Virgo to your sun. And then Mars and Uranus in Taurus, two malefic planets that are going to turn people's finances upside down, particularly if they're overextended, so their house of cards falls apart. Those two planets, Capricorn, are trining your sun. And so, just like Virgo, you may be able to take advantage of the falling prices of investments. And if you have a little money to invest further in something that you think is good long term, perhaps you should do that, Capricorn. And the reason why is you are going to live a long life. And no matter how high the prices are today, they're going to be much higher down the road. And so living on your current income is fine for today. But is there a way that you could possibly invest it to increase your income as you get older? You should continually look for opportunities to do that, Capricorn, because you are going to get older. Capricorn rules old age. There's plenty of Capricorns that make it to 100. Your ruler is Saturn. It's the planet of time. Capricorns know how to make time work for them. I don't know how they know that, but they spend their whole lives doing that. And over time, they're very successful at that. So a falling market or falling values in anything, even prices at the grocery store, when they fall, maybe you better stock up on some things that ordinarily you wouldn't buy that many of them, but you don't know when the prices are going to go back up either. And so, you could be more economical with your money right now. And that's because Mars and Uranus are trining your sun. You'd have to be real careful when Mars comes up and conjuncts Uranus. The whole world has got to be real careful then. Somebody's going to make a desperate move then. Or somebody's house of cards is really going to fall during that time. And of course, Capricorn, I don't think it would be yours. But that is probably because you're rather prudent with your money, knowing that you have to make it stretch for a long time, which is true. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, you sort of have the best of both worlds, sort of, because the 4 planets in Gemini, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter are all trining your sun, which is very good because you have Pluto in your sun sign. So that's a trine of 5 planets, half of all the planets in the universe, in air signs, and they are all trining the sign of Libra, which doesn't have any planets in it, but there's a powerful solar eclipse coming up in Libra in October. And the sort of the wheels of progress could start moving forward right now, perhaps in just a part-time way or a temporary way, but they could work out for the betterment of your future, Aquarius, as long as you don't make any financial mistakes right now. You could do that though, because Mars is now in Taurus. It is at 2 degrees. It is exactly squaring Pluto in your sign at 1 degree. And these two planets are the rulers of Scorpio. So you better look over your insurance policies again, Aquarius. Make sure everything is insured at a current value, not a lower past value, because you'd lose money if anything happened to an insured item if you weren't up to date on that. Mars and Pluto rule Scorpio, and Scorpio rules insurance. And so you have to be a little bit careful about making sure your insurance is really covering the current value of everything you own. So that would be a prudent thing to do right now, because you could be affected, sorely affected, by Mars and Pluto, Mars and Uranus, your own ruler in Taurus, squaring your sun. Uranus has been squaring your sun for 6 years, Aquarius. It's got 1 more year to go, and then it will be gone for another 84. So you won't have, Uranus is not coming back to Taurus after it leaves, at least not for 84 years. But the problem is that when these two malefic planets meet up and conjunct, Mars will conjunct Uranus, and Uranus is such a volatile, rebellious, quick-acting planet, and they'll both be squaring your sun. That's when you really have to make sure all of your financial records and the way you handle your money and the people you do business with are sort of on the up and up. Make sure that none of their house of cards is falling apart. Try not to deal with anybody who's faking it right now. When I talk about a house of cards, I mean somebody is faking it. Somebody is presenting one persona or one lavish lifestyle to the world, and behind the scenes, they're not exactly broke, but they're not as wealthy as they look either. You really have to stay away from those people, Aquarius. They could hurt your future. And so you need to be, it's very lucky that the 4 planets in Gemini are trining your sun, because that means that by taking on a part-time or temporary project, that could help you meet new people and form new partnerships, and maybe even be able to sign a very generous legal contract by October. It's possible. Your sign rules the future. I would definitely make sure that you're ready for the future, Aquarius. Don't worry about anybody else. Just make sure that you've got your records and your finances and your relationships with people all sort of on the up and up. Not the phonies, not the ambitious ones that are always saying they're going to do something and then they never end up doing it. I know. Cut those people out, Aquarius. Because you have 2 malefic planets in a financial sign squaring the ruler of another financial sign in your sign. And you could be vulnerable to a financial loss right now. And just don't let it be because of your own doing or your own laziness. Make sure all your records are up to date. And if they aren't, just decide you've got to do some office work and get them up to date. Because otherwise you could lose some money if anything went wrong. So try to take it real seriously right now. At least take your finances seriously. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, this is a time, just like I'm telling Scorpio and Cancer, it's the 11th hour, Pisces, because Neptune, your own ruler, after 12 years, is now at 29 degrees, 49 minutes of Pisces in your sign, and it's not going into Aries. Most people would round that off and say it's already at 0 degrees of Aries, but really, technically, it's still got 11 minutes of 1 degree in to go before it really does hit Aries, and it's going to go retrograde. And then it'll only for a couple of degrees, and then it's going to come back and pass over that 29th degree again by March and be gone for the rest of your life, for all our lives. And it's your own ruler, Pisces. And you have Saturn in your sign. Saturn in your sign could have made you, Saturn in Pisces has a detrimental effect on some people. And that's because Pisces rules the 12th house of limitations and things going on behind the scenes. And so one of the not too happy effects of having Saturn in Pisces is your hearing. People could have problems with deafness if they have Saturn in Pisces. And Saturn has been in Pisces for the last couple of years. There could be even more people that are having hearing problems because of that. It's not that they can't solve that problem in one way or another, but it could be coming up while Saturn has been in Pisces, and that could even be happening to you, Pisces. Just a little hard of hearing, but it's not going to get any better if you don't attend to it. Saturn's transit is 28 to 30 years. Do you want to live with that for the next 28 to 30 years, or do you want to get it fixed? So, you can't keep turning things up forever. If you're a little bit hard of hearing, you need to correct that. Go to a doctor and get that taken care of, because it could get worse, but it won't get better unless you do go to the doctor and fix something like that if you notice you're becoming hard of hearing. Because anybody who has Saturn in Pisces could have that problem from birth. But a whole lot of people could have that since Saturn has entered Pisces. And it would have only been in that sign every 28 to 30 years. It wouldn't happen to everybody. But it could be happening now. So I just thought I'd let you know that. And then the other thing is that Saturn can represent depression. And right now, Saturn in your sign, Pisces, along with Neptune, are being opposed by the moon in Virgo, which means parents are not getting along, or people who are normally very easy to get along with are not getting along with authority figures, or else there's just too many demands being put on them and something's got to give. Okay, that oppositions are separating aspects. They're not bringing people together, and so that could happen to you. And also there's 4 planets in Gemini, and all good ones. The Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter are all in Gemini, squaring Saturn and Neptune in your sign, Pisces. So you could have a wonderful opportunity to make a dream come true at the very last minute, and yet you could be scattering your forces in so many different directions that you could miss it. And this is a matter of timing now, Pisces. You're out of time. That's what I'm saying. You're not out of time. You're facing some pretty stiff oppositions and squares to your own sign. And there's no other planets in water signs. There's no backup to your sign. And so you just have to say, well, should I just keep dreaming along about things, let them work out the way they will someday? Or maybe should I take a more wide open look and try to clear up a confusing mirage? Of all the sun signs, you would be a person who might be afflicted or affected by a confusing mirage right now, by people who are living beyond their means. But they could be entertaining, or they could be wealthy, or they could be ambitious. You could think, oh, I need to hitch my star to them. Well, no, you don't, because their house of cards is going to fall in. They're phonies, okay? They're faking that wealthy lifestyle. You don't know how many bills they have, or loans outstanding, or tremendous debt. And you shouldn't be around people like that, Pisces. You have to get back to something that is a little bit closer to home, a little bit closer to a simpler life, and probably to the values that you were raised with. And Saturn rules time. It's in your sign. So that would represent a father figure, or that would represent somebody older who has sort of has their head on their shoulders. Or when you were younger, they probably did teach you some pretty valuable things. You should go back to them, Pisces. And if you want to make a dream come true right now, you have almost no time left. You really need to drop everything and just do it. And you could, If you had a full-time job, you could take your 2-week vacation and get something done that you really want to do. You could do that. Your employer wouldn't let you go just because you were taking a vacation, particularly if you have vacation time. And you could just concentrate on making a dream come true. And you could do that behind the scenes because that's what your sign rules. You could also actually work on getting rid of some sort of limitation of your own. And Pisces, I think the number one limitation would have something to do with something that you are kidding yourself about. It could have been something that was an affliction or something that happened in your life when you were much younger. And with Saturn in your sign right now, it sort of can be coming back to you, and you could be thinking, oh, this is really still a big problem. Well, maybe it was when you were a kid, but are you sure it's a big problem now, Pisces? Are you sure you haven't outgrown that? Are you sure the world hasn't changed? You know, it's funny, kids sort of tend to think the way their parents tell them to think, or their teachers tell them to think. And kids are guided by that. Okay, well, there's no planets in cardinal signs. There's nobody around right now to tell us the difference between right and wrong, because that's what the cardinal signs know about. So you've got to take another re-examination of the way you were raised, or the influences that you had when you were younger, or if you had a problem, or even an illness when you were younger. And it was something that sort of didn't go away, like that deafness I was telling you about. If a person was born with Saturn in Pisces, they would have hearing problems their whole life. They can get them fixed though. And that's my point, Pisces. You know, you could make your fondest dream come true right now at the very last minute, but one of the best ways to do that would be get over whatever you're afraid of. And the reason why is because it isn't something that the world is afraid of anymore. Or it isn't something that would affect people the way it affected you years ago. Okay? Pisces are pretty good at covering up something that they don't think is acceptable to other people. So they cover it up or they kid themselves about it. And all I'm saying, Pisces, is, you know, take a closer look now. I'm not saying that the world doesn't care about something that you feel is a limitation of yours. Sure they do. But on the other hand, you don't have to hide it, because the world isn't looking at it the same way that you look at it. Because the world can see bigger problems out there. Or they are more concentrated on problems that weren't around when you were a kid, but they're affecting a lot of other people today. So different things affect different generations. And whatever affected you when you were younger, including your training by your parents, or the neighborhood you grew up in, or the way other kids at school treated you, it's not the same world anymore for you, Pisces. The one thing about living is that we generally outgrow our limitations, particularly if we live long enough. We outgrow them. And the way we do that is we become no longer afraid of them. We accept them. Every single one of us has things wrong with ourselves that we really don't want anybody else to know about, so we're not advertising them. But for most people, nothing's stopping them either. And you don't need to have those as if they're a big worry anymore. They might have worried you as a kid. They're not a big worry now. Because Pisces, if you're listening to me, you have lived long enough to know that you have talent. And one of your talents is to have a very kind nature. And all I'm suggesting is that if you want a precious dream of yours to come true, be kind to yourself. And as you concentrate on the kindness that you're giving yourself in your understanding of things that you don't need to be afraid of anymore, you will be extending that kindness to someone else that can make you happy too. And that's what your dream is all about anyway. So go forward, Pisces. You've got 2 seconds left. I still think you can do it. Good luck. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if I ever have problems with the show or on my website, I hope that you're just patient because it takes a little while when you've got gremlins around that want to make life hard on you. But the way to do it is just tackle one problem at a time and keep going. And so just believe that I'm still here and I still care about all of my wonderful viewers. I've been very lucky. We're going to hit our 1600th show pretty soon. And that was 30 years of hard work, but it's been a joy. So thank you. And I'll see you next week. Bye. Oh, that guy. Well, he doesn't work mornings, that's for sure. Okay.